Greetings everyone, this is National Master Jonathan Hilton, here today with another 4Chess moment. This moment comes from the book Dynamic Decision Making in Chess, which is a recent release from Quality Chess. In this book, Boris Gelfand attempts to reflect on his own decision-making process in a way that is understandable to players of all levels. In his chapter on mistakes, I'll go to the table of contents, you can see it here. It's called The Nature of Tactical Mistakes at the Top Level. Gelfand brings up a theme I've noticed in my own games and also when working with students at the club level. He calls it the unexplainable. The theme is that sometimes we make a move blindly, sometimes automatically, and sometimes as we're coming out of a deep thought. And it's a terrible move, and we have no idea why we would have ever chosen to make it. Even if we've been playing perfectly meticulously throughout the entire rest of the game, we just have a mental lapse and play a dumb move. Here's one of Gelfand's. I'll go to a spot that I have bookmarked. Here we go. I'll go to the precise moment. I'll put it up here on the display. So this position is Black's move, and Black plays bishop c6. I'll go back a few moves to show you how we got here. This had been the position. White was up a pawn, but Black attempted to achieve some counterplay. Black played queen to c2, and White played queen to d3 in order to invite an exchange of queens. Gelfand said he was happy with the move queen to d3 because he had seen that if Black played queen takes a2, there's a nice tactic here for White. Queen to d7, forking Black's rook on e8 and his bishop on b7. And then after queen to f7, White has queen takes f7, king takes f7, rook d7 check, forking the king and the bishop on b7. Black plays rook to e7, but then White has bishop h5 check, pawn to g6, of course not king to f8 because rook to d8 check would lead to mate. So Black plays pawn to g6, and here White wins a pawn with pawn takes, and then bishop takes g6, because the Black king is tied down to the rook on e7. So Gelfand was feeling good about himself in this position, and he was happy with his move queen to d3. Black played queen takes, which is an understandable move. After all, after rook takes d3, Black does win his pawn back with bishop takes e4. However, now White plays rook to e3, pinning the bishop on e4 to the Black rook on e8. So Black plays his only move, which is a defensive move, bishop to c6. So in this position, White has a relatively simple route to victory here, which Gelfand missed. If you'd like, you can pause the video now if you want to try to find it for yourself. Okay, ready? So White actually wins here with the obvious no strings attached kind of move, king to f2, which is, it's perfectly simple. White centralizes his king, and he brings his king to the queen's side, and suddenly he wins all of the Black pawns on a6 and b5. For instance, rook to c8, rook to c3, bishop d7, rook takes, bishop takes, king e3, and so on. It's fairly simple from here on out. For instance, if Black plays bishop takes f5, White would play bishop to b7, win the pawn on a6, and march his king into c5 in order to win the b5 pawn. So going back, after king to f2, there really isn't any good option for Black. His bishop on c6 is threatened, so there really isn't any way for him to defend. White would simply break through on the queen side and win. So what did Gelfand play instead? Well, Gelfand actually played the sort of reflexive move, rook takes e8 here. And unfortunately for white, this just peters out to a dead draw. Black retook, and then white understandably went in to win his pawn with bishop to b7. However, after the next few moves, you'll see that it actually turns out that black can erect a fortress. These are all fairly natural moves, and the players agreed to a draw very shortly. If you look at this position, white really has no chances. The black pawns on b5, f6, and g5 simply control all of the possible pawn breaks. After just a few more moves, the players agreed to a draw. And so on. So, what is one to conclude from all of this? Gelfand says that his mistake in this game is unexplainable. The only possible explanation, according to Gelfand, is that he wasn't thinking at all when he played it. But that raises the next question, which is, why didn't he think? Well, Gelfand explains it in the following terms. Quote, "You can't think deeply on every move." He goes on to explain that the trick is knowing when you have to invest time and energy thinking and when you don't. In this game, he simply got that wrong. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you again on the next Ford Chess Moment.